All right, welcome back to Spooky Happy Hour. I'm your host, Bree, and on this week's episode, you're meeting one of my very best friends, Ariana. Welcome.
Hello. How are you
Hi.
today?
Pissed because it's recording day, which means it's Sunday, and the Steelers just sucked ass. So,
Woof.
yeah, I'm here just ready to down a drink and chat with my bestie because fuck NFL Sunday for pissing me off.
Yeah, we're gonna rub that mood a little bit. Hike that back
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Because we're going to talk about human design today, and your energy and my energy feed off of each other really well. And before we get into it, though, we're going to talk about what drinks that we have. So tell me, what is your concoction that you got going on?
Oh, my concoction is a lavender
It
French
looks so pretty.
75. Isn't it so pretty? It could have been
Mhm.
prettier, but here we are. It's fine. But yeah, so a lavender scent, a lavender French 75. So what it is usually going to be like an ounce and a half of gin. I did a lavender local gin, and then lemon juice, simple syrup, and then it's topped with champagne or prosecco.
Oh,
So
fancy.
fancy lady
See,
today.
mine looks like that in here, but it's not any of those things. It's just my normal Bacardi, Dragonberry, rum, and some pink lemonade.
How you can still drink that is beyond me.
Dude,
Like that
it's
went
been
out
like
the
the last
window
three,
2013. Like
like
could never touch it
literally the
again.
last 3 years. That's all I've been like. I don't know if it's just coming back to like some nostalgia or something, but that is
Maybe.
all I've been drinking for like legit 3 years.
That's crazy.
Every once in a while, I like spruce it up with like a peach white claw. Like, other than that, that's it.
When I'm feeling like a little spicy, I grab
Yeah.
a seltzer.
When I don't mind like belching at the top of my lungs, like that's exactly what I'm going to grab.
Hey, fair enough, fair enough. No judgment here. I just still associate it with college.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of things
So
that I feel like I still do that we probably associate it with college. Oh, all right. Let's get
fair
into human
enough.
design. But before, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, head over to Spotify because it really introduces human design. You might be a little confused because like we build off of that information in this episode, but either way, we're glad you're here. For
Sure are.
for those of you that don't know, though, I was introduced to human design kind of like abruptly by my who I call my spiritual advisor, Katie, who would totally laugh super hard if she knew that that's what I called her, but that's who she is to me. But after she introduced me to it, and then after reading a 228-page PDF and a 300-page book in like about a week, I kind of know a little bit more about human design. And then I introduced Ariana to it. So I'm wondering, what were your initial thoughts as soon as I was like, hey, by the way, I read this 220-page like PDF about your life and or about my life. Let me see what your life is all about. So like, what do you think about human design as a concept?
I was excited. When you gave the brief overview, it was just something I was like, oh, that's like super intriguing. I have a lot of questions. Like we've both always kind of been into the more, spiritual aspect of life and, birth charts and astrology, and the way you had designed it was like it's a lot more concepts that come together to bring, I guess, I don't want to say more direction, but that's kind of how it feels when you're looking at it as a whole. So I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. And then I did exactly what you did. I just didn't buy the 300 book. I read my 311-page document. I got the app. I hyperfixated for like 3 weeks and then went and told everybody I know that I thought it would help. So we
Yeah,
kind of did
and
the
it
same
did too.
thing. It did. Yeah, it
It
was
really,
crazy.
really did. And I think that was the biggest thing for me was just like, I don't care where it's from. It's like after I like initially like sunk my teeth into it, and then
Hmm.
I found out that it was like, oh, this guy had this mystical journey, which we all know really just means he like probably tripped on some drugs in a foreign country and then had all of this like magical realization. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
because it really freaking helped in
Yeah,
life. But even after knowing the origin, I was like, I don't really care. Had
I
I
don't
have
care. Yeah.
known the origin beforehand, I don't know if it I don't know if I would have went in with like a little bit more skepticism, but because it just
Yeah.
made so much sense, it was like
Mhm.
and it was like just shoved in my face like clearly when I met with Katie that day, and she's like, "Are you a projector?" I was like, and then I was. So I was like, this is probably going to go pretty far if I find out what more this actually
Right.
means. Like, this shit is for real.
Absolutely.
So a recap
Absolutely.
of our energy types. Like, my
Hmm.
energy type is a projector, which body graph definition means that I have an open sacral center and I don't have a defined channel or to like a motor like the throat. But that's like what you'll see in the body graph. But contextually in everyday life, the power of a projector is to guide, manage, and direct other people. Like, we see the big picture in everything. And projectors have the gift of an aura that's just really piercing, meaning that we see people to their core, and not just people, but like systems as well. And because I think that's such like a unique set of traits, it makes sense why the strategy for projectors is to wait for an invitation. So like, your strategy is how you make things happen in your life. So this could be as simple as someone saying to me, "Hey, Bree, I've seen you posting a lot about paranormal investigations. I just started doing that. Can you give me some helpful tips and tricks?" And then I could be able to like share my knowledge if I felt like that was a good decision for me to make. Now, if I saw that same person on Facebook post a video about them investigating, and I noticed that they like might not know how to operate a piece of equipment, or if they could look like maybe they could use some helpful tips and tricks, and I just like
Hmm.
DM'd them out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, by the way, here's some information for you," they'd probably be like, "Who the fuck is this bitch? Like, who are
Yeah.
you to slide into my DMs and tell me how to do my stuff?" So the strategy is unique to projectors, and as projectors guide, manage, and lead people, they need the invitation to be able to do so. So you're a manifesting generator. So tell our listeners what that really means and what your strategy is.
Okay. So my chart's so confusing. So I'm not going to act like I know what that means in the body map of sense because
Mm,
I don't.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I
But
either. I know a lot about mine. I might not know about a lot
yeah.
about yours, but
Well, the chart, because I have so many fixed parts,
Mhm.
it makes the rest of it kind of a little bit more confusing. But yeah, no, so manifest generators are basically, we're multi-passionate people. The way that we're interacting is if we are passionate about it and we follow that passion that we feel inside of us, it's going to lead us to what we actually desire. If we have that reaction that we want to change professions even, or like a lot of times a huge piece of manifest generators personality types are kind of how we interact with the world. It's we aren't that person that comes out at 18, we go to school for that specific major and we stay in that path. We go, you're going to be an accountant, so you're going to business school, you're doing that, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Like, on average, because we are multi-passionate, 9 times out of 10 that original thing we want to do is maybe part of our bigger picture, but it's not just that. It's going to encompass a lot of things. For example, I went into college as a communications major. I came out with a psychology degree. Complete 180.
Right?
Because I was like, I do like to talk and I like to talk to people, but I like to talk about people in this realm. Like, I'm not going to be good doing broadcast journalism because another one of my passions is helping community. So that's how I've now come to tie it all into I do behavioral health case management, so I can tie in all of my passions and those strengths. And because there are so many different paths, it's hard. You're always on a path as a manifesting generator. You're always on a path of wonder and discovery, and that's what also brings a lot of joy and sense of self to the path that we're walking. And basically, it's a a long way to say we're great at multitasking.
Yeah, right?
But that goes in then with our that ties back into my emotional authority and waiting to respond, right? So while we have all these passions, we need to wait for the universe to give us something that stimulates us a response. So we
Right.
need to wait to respond. So if you see something and it's like, oh, that could be a good, I don't know, work, that could be a good work opportunity, but you should sit and wait on it and then respond with what you want to do, because basically in that response you want to know within your whole body and your whole self that that is exactly that you want to do that. That's a hard hell yes.
Yeah, it's like
And
you have to wait along with the other types, right? Like
mhm,
there's only
right,
one type that doesn't necessarily have to wait for something, and those
right,
are the manifestors who
yeah,
like in the world, at least in the United States, is like what we're
mhm,
conditioned to be as manifestors.
right,
Oh, you want
yeah,
that? Like go out and get it. And so you have part of that in the manifesting generator, right?
mhm,
Like you have part of that like go getter type thing, but you also have the generator side that says, I have to wait for it to be the right
mhm,
opportunity for me to be
right.
able to do that.
And with that piece too, it's kind of funny, and I think and again, going back in and actually reading through all this and seeing how every inner piece connects, it's so funny because I have always found the most joy and the most success on things that I really want to do. I have said yes to things and opportunities that weren't really necessarily something that I was like, that's awesome. Absolutely, let's do that. But it's because society has told me that's what you should do. I've gone and done it, and I end up being
Frustrated with life.
frustrated
Mhm.
and I feel trapped and I feel stuck. And I'm like, why can't I fit into this mold that everyone's suggesting I do? And it's because I didn't have the response that I should have had. And if had I
Yeah.
waited and actually felt it in my body, things
Mhm.
would have played out differently. So,
And you weren't designed to. You know, you
right.
weren't designed to, like,
Hmm.
go and do the thing that everybody tells you that you should do.
Right.
And I think that it's, like I don't know, I think it's crazy because in terms of, like, strategy,
Yeah.
I've never waited for an invitation in my damn life. Like, that's why I can just
We,
be a bitter bitch because I'm like, "Hey, look, I have all this wisdom. Let me share it with you. Oh, you didn't ask? Well, just listen anyway." Like
oh my gosh. When you first told me that, oh, I just remember us cackling, cackling.
I'm like,
And
"I
it's
found
like,
the key that unlocked all of my problems. Why at 33 did I find it now? Like, couldn't I have used this, like, oh, 20 years ago?"
probably, but
Yeah.
you're not conditioned to work that way.
No, mm-mm. I think the 30s is just, like, where I don't know, I think the 30s is, like, where we're not giving a shit about what we should do, right? Like our
Right.
20s is like, let's go out and like fuck around and find out. And now in my
Yeah,
30s, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna fuck around. If you find out, I don't care. I'm gonna still be over here fucking around. So, and I'm gonna be
exactly.
doing what I need to do for my own type, my own strategy, my own authority, and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I had to let go of some control, which was really nice. And I feel like that's been a lifelong journey anyway, is just like letting it go like piece by piece by piece, but trusting like the nature and like the
Yeah,
flow of life and really diving
absolutely.
into like having a relationship with the universe and the universe putting me in
Mhm,
the right place with the right people at the right time. When I
mhm.
fell into my human design, I just like don't think that I couldn't like ever go back on it
Right, yeah,
at
absolutely.
all.
It's such a critical tool. Like,
Hmm.
there's so many people who I see, and I don't wanna say flailing because that's not the right term, but it's more of a still struggling with that sense of self and that sense that they're doing the right thing for themselves. Because
Hmm.
again, we're in such a day and age where there is so much competing information because you're still, it's still very much in the zeitgeist. Go get married, go have children, have a job, retire.
Hmm.
That's what you should be doing, period point blank. So when you see people who aren't quite doing that, mainstream traditional path, and they're still like, I know there's more out for me, but I don't know how to get there. I think it's such a great tool that I would love to introduce people to, but it's also like, hey guys, how do you feel about the universe? And I still kind of
Well,
feel
I mean,
like
I
I'm
can
like, you
use
might
it
drink
in
my
therapy,
Kool-Aid.
right?
Yeah,
And that's what it feels like though
that's what it
sometimes is
feels
like,
like.
especially because of like the origin of where it's at. I think that
Hmm.
that's like what gets
Right.
people because
A
if
little
you're
bit,
so
yeah.
like black and white or like really logistical
Hmm.
about something and I tell you, "Oh, this man went on this entire like mystical journey. He came back. He has the answers to the universe." And you're going to be like, "Bree, like what weird ass documentary did you watch this weekend and just like take it in?" But no, like and I don't think that it has to be like a total foundation
Oh
because it
no.
it doesn't take into context like culture or values or all of these other things, but I think as like
Hmm.
a framework, it's
Oh,
perfect.
yes. It's a great outline. I think it's
Mhm.
just like it hits the main points, and I just think, and another way that how I usually sell it is, if you don't think it's for you, it doesn't have to be. But go get your free reading, look what it says, and then look at the descriptions of that. How much of what it's saying is correct in your life and certain things? And then, kind of go in because that's what it was for me. It wasn't, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I love read about it. But it was always a what? Like, how, wait, what?
Mhm.
How is this that accurate?
Well, and it was much more, I think, like, reassuring and, like,
Yes,
reaffirming for us and, like, very
validating.
eye-opening. Right, 110%
Hmm.
validating. But I think for other people who look
Yeah,
at it and they're not doing what they're doing, like, for me, I
right.
was self-aware enough of to be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, if I waited for the invitation, this probably would have made a bigger impact in my life. I should have been doing
Right.
this for a while." So it's like, sometimes I think that whenever I tell people about it and they go into their chart, they're like, "Oh, well, that's not how I act." I'm like, "Well, that's probably because you've been conditioned to do something different. And this is how, you're designed to have your energy to move." So it's not
Right.
like you get your birth chart and it's like, "Oh, this describes me exactly as
Right.
I am right now." It's
Right.
that I'm going to get my entire chart, see my body graph, know where my energy is fixed and where it's open and where I
Hmm.
am here to teach the world about and where I'm here to learn from the world about. And then it
Hmm.
makes it so much more like well-rounded. And if you're not doing it that way, then like who's to say you can't experiment and try to do it the way that you're designed to and see how it works out for you?
Right. And I do think you making the point of being self-aware and emotionally intelligent, I think that is a huge piece. I feel like human design is for I don't want to say our generation, but sort of like the ones who are, early 30s, you've been taking the proper steps to really heal yourself and heal those inner pieces, and you want to be better and you want to grow and you want to figure out how to make yourself feel more comfortable and what that looks like. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of that piece where it's for you. You're only doing it for you, but it's kind of like
Right.
when you're doing CBT or DBT, you know what I mean? Like you have to be ready to take those steps and take in what you're learning from it. And I think this is a great companion. And I'm sure that's why you are able to use it so well in therapy, because if you are ready to take those steps, I do think it's almost like a better affirming tool that, okay, I am healing. I am
Yeah.
shifting. I am
Mhm.
changing. You know what I mean? Because I am feeling this. I am feeling satisfaction when I'm doing the things that this has said I should utilize.
Yeah,
So,
110%. Like
yeah.
when I'm invited to something because somebody
Hmm.
recognizes the gifts that I have, I'm
Right.
able to step into it and they're there to listen wholeheartedly. I'm like, I might not
Hmm.
have all the answers, but, and we'll
Right.
get into this a little bit when we talk about like our profiles, but like I have a lot of information. So it's
Right.
like when, and like
Yes.
how many times have you picked up the phone and was like, yo, I need you to tell me about something. Here it is. Let me hear your
Yes.
thoughts about it.
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
think that's why
that's,
we work so well together too.
and
Because,
I
like,
think it's
you understand my energy.
the
Yeah.
way sorry, the way that like when we go into talking about profile and like the way that we do communicate, because we are that type. And I think it's just kind of a thing, because I think if you would have found us on paper or connected us like when we first became friends, not that it didn't make sense, but
It
it's
didn't
kind
make
of
sense.
it
Like,
didn't make sense
it makes sense.
at all. But
No. But
it's
we're
kind of that
here.
genre. We're here.
And I mean, how many years has it been now? What, 2024? We met in
We met 2012.
12?
12
2012?
2012.
2012. So 24, 12, 12. Good math. Easy math.
Good. Great at
Beautiful.
it.
So we've been friends for 12
Over 10
years.
years. Yep.
Yeah, like, and I think that, like, for people to have a context here, like, we've been friends for 12 years, and not just friends, but I mean, like, best friends for 12 years,
Yes.
have lived together for, I don't know, at least half of that.
The majority of our 20s,
Yeah, like,
like
a
literally the
lot
whole
of
half of
time.
it, like a lot of time, like moved across the country.
Oh
Best
my gosh,
friends.
y'all. I was like, couldn't wait to get the hell out of Pennsylvania. We were in college. We were sitting in our little apartment. I was probably no doubt in the cave that I made our living room watching Ghost Adventures. And I'm
With
like,
candles. Please don't forget that she black
no,
and
well,
would
the
only
pizza
light a
rolls had to
candle.
have a light. The pizza rolls had to have a light in the living room for me to be able to see them when I ate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so
So it
no
had to be
doubt.
by candlelight, but by candlelight, not an actual light.
No.
Keep in mind, the worst part is truly though, is that you would go and block out the light of the door, and that was the only light
The
in the
only
room, and it
natural
was
light.
this big. No other light in our living room. We had no windows.
No.
But that one on the door and the way that you would go and block it out so you could be in complete darkness. Oh, yeah, you were meant for
Yeah,
this, lady.
I needed the spooky shit, and I needed just my little baby candles. I would
Yeah.
love though, you would just like walk in, barge through the door, and you'd be like, "This again?" Like it's a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm done with classes. Like, what do you want from me?
Oh, my favorite was when I'd be leaving for work on a Saturday and I come back from work on a Saturday. And the
In the
only
same
thing
spot.
that's changed is the drinks.
A little bit of coffee in the morning, some
Yeah.
booze at night. So if you think that we just like met and we bonded over human design and like all
No,
this stuff, no. We've known each other for
nothing.
12 years. We've like been through some really crazy shit together. We've lived with
Absolutely.
each other for so long. So it's like I think it's that much more affirming too that
Yeah.
because it was so validating for me and so validating for you and us together
Right.
that like we aren't just some like people that we just met, you know, a week ago.
Yeah.
So I think that like the background of it is really helpful to like get into in our
Oh,
friendship
yeah. For sure.
because it's wild too because all your best friends are besides me are projectors and all my best friends
Yes.
besides you are manifesting generators. So something is like with our two types that makes us the best of friends.
100%. It's so weird. It's like, and it's all in it's, and I find it even funnier that my best friends out here and they're all like, okay, met you 4 years ago, met you 2 years ago. And then when I talked to them and I had them do it, and those relationships were an instant click. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like you take someone, you gravitate to them because of their energy and the vibe they're putting off, and you have a good time. And then, you could have met. I met, for example, when I met Katrina, I she was at one of my friends' birthday parties. She was random. She didn't know anybody else there. She just
Mhm.
happened to know the friend. Like had hung out a couple of times and was there. And I think we met, I don't know, 20 other people that night. And we were all like had a great time and we vibed. Me and Katrina are the only two that still talk because it was like
Mhm.
that instant connection and like we built such a great friendship from it. And yeah, and I think that's and Cody was the same way. It was we were outside taking a break at work, just vibing, and we both just started dancing. And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you from the East Coast?" And I go, "Yep." "Are you from the East Coast?" He goes, "Yep." And then we were best friends.
Yeah, and it's like when I asked you, I'm like, well, what other projectors do you know? And then you told all your people about it, like the people that are
Yeah.
closest to you, and like Katrina and Cody were like, oh, they're projectors too. And I was like, wait a minute. So then
Yeah.
I go to my friends and it's like Taylor and then Kayla in the Fear Club. Like I met her
Yeah.
literally, there's 4,000 and some people in the Fear Club. Saw this
Right.
girl, gravitated to her in a chat, had
Oh
something to
my God.
say.
In
So
a
I
chat.
D
That's
in a
crazy.
chat. So
In
I
a chat.
DM her and then I
Mhm.
just picked her up from the airport last weekend. First time we've ever met in person.
Oh my God.
And
That's so funny.
went to Madison Seminary for MadCon. And it's like, she's a Manny Jen. So it's just like this pairing. And I think it's because y'all have so many defined channels.
Yeah.
So like your energy is so fixed in all these places
Hmm.
that like I can learn so much and I can get like I can siphon your energy
Hmm.
to then do all of these things. Like all of you have like your sacral center is defined. So it's
Hmm.
like that like workforce type energy, I can just get it. And like if you have your inspiration center defined, I'm just taking the energy and then giving it back
Wait.
to you.
Wait. This just opened my brain, bro. The way we have always shared,
Been
like
connected.
the when like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it is because you're getting that energy, and then I'm getting the energy that you're putting back out because it's and whether it's good or bad, I know
Yep. We know.
doesn't matter. Nothing
Yeah.
like me burping and you feeling better because of it.
I know. But it's really, I mean, it's very
No, that's
freaking real.
crazy because we've always just
Yeah.
been like, oh, we're emotionally attached weirdly on a cord somewhere. But no, that even makes even more sense because it's just literally being the exchange of energy as well. It's not
Mhm.
just like third eyes open and I know something's going on with Bree.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, it could be a
yeah,
little bit of dab of that too, but
it's a
really,
little bit.
like, our energy is so connected and
Yeah.
influenced by one another that it
Hmm.
makes sense that that is how that works. And I think
Yeah.
that like both you and well, I mean, I guess you can talk for yourself, but like for me, finding out my authority was
Yeah.
hard. Because I think
Mhm.
that was like the biggest piece was the eye opener. Like
Right.
when it was like, "Oh, you should wait for the invitation." I'm like, "Yeah, that probably makes sense." Because it was like one of those things that like in the back of my head, I was like, "Yeah, I should probably
Mhm.
wait for someone to like ask for that before I give it to
Yeah.
them." So that made sense. It like clicked and I was like, "All right, I'll do that." But for the authority, I didn't so a recap on authority.
Yeah.
Our authority means that this is what you listen to in order to make decisions that are right for you. So for me, I'd wait for the recognition and the invitation to respond to whatever opportunity is there. And then I'd check in with my authority. And for me, my authority is an ego projected authority. And there's a newer term for it that I actually like a lot better. And I think it makes more sense. It's called heart projected authority because I only have two defined centers in my
Right.
entire body graph. So a reflector is the only type that doesn't have any. And like projectors can have like many defined centers, but like I
Mhm.
only have two. And the only channel that I have in my chart, which Ariana has like a shit ton of channels, which really mean that you have two gifts or gates that connect together to have one defined center to another defined center. But
Mhm.
because I only have two defined centers in my chart, I only have one channel. And that's from my identity center where it houses like your sense of self, love, direction. And that's directly connected to my heart center or like my will center where all my wants and desires are. So my type's extremely rare. The authority type is that I have this heart projected. Less than 1% of the population have an heart projected authority. So what it means is like when I go to make a decision, I have to go inward to what I want. Like, what does my heart want?
Mhm.
And then I ask myself, like, is this what I want? And a lot of the time, like, since I've been evaluating decisions in this manner and like trying to check in with my authority, if it isn't for me, my heart feels like heavy and it's like sinking into my stomach. And that means like it's
Mm.
a no go. And then when
Mm.
my chest suddenly feels like lighter and like my shoulders too, like, draw back and down, and it's like I'm like uplifted into the clouds, like that's what it feels like here. And if like I
Mhm.
see in my mind's eye sometimes this like beaming white light, like literally out of my chest, like I know that it's a yes.
Right.
And how many times though, like, and you've been on the end of this too, like how many times have someone been like, oh, well, Bree just wants to do what Bree wants to do. Bree wants to do her own thing and have control over this, and vacations. Prime example, when we go
Vacations.
on vacation, when we go on trips
Vacations.
together,
Oh my
I
god.
want it to be how I want it to be because that's
And
what my
y
heart wants.
and and I understand that, but whoo, baby girl, you broke a nail and it tailspin the rest of the trip.
Dude, when you told me that the other
You
day, I
ta
was like, when did this happen? And then like to go back through the archives in my brain and find that out, I was like, what did that really mean to me? I was like, let's go and get like introspective. And I found an answer, which I could probably derail this entire episode to tell you about, but
we can
like,
do that after.
yeah, right. But like, honestly and truly, like, I think that because of the conditioning process of
Yeah.
projectors being so
Mhm.
high, like,
Mhm.
and like, not that none of us go through conditioning, all of us do. That's
Right.
why we're not
Mhm.
acting according to our types. But
Exactly.
from what I've read, the projectors are like the most highly conditioned. And it makes sense because if they can see shit that needs to be fixed and then say something about it, nobody wants to hear that shit.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why we'd be so conditioned. So I think that like when something trivial or small
Mhm.
would happen, I would make it so big because I
Yeah.
want it to be seen or heard or validated or whatever, even if it was
Mhm.
like the dumbest shit of all
Oh,
time.
okay.
You know what I mean?
I can, yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
And I also know probably what, yes, but now again, different conversation.
We'll talk about it on
But
the phone after. But
yes, maybe.
but that's
But,
how I know that like, oh wait, I was checking in with my authority, but from like a wounded
mhm,
place rather than like a healed
right,
place. So now
right,
like my behaviors would be different, but checking in with my authority wouldn't be. And it's not like I
right,
always,
yeah,
even if I follow all of these things, it doesn't mean that I have to like the outcome of them. I
right,
may buy a house because that's what my heart really wants, but really it had nothing to do with the house, but it puts me next door to like my future partner or something.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to
Hmm.
be the house, but if you follow, like for me, with the heart projected authority, if I follow my wants and my desires, it's going to set me in a place that I'm
Right.
going to find some type of success. And for me, I think
Hmm.
like our values like lie in our heart, which is why I think that I value authenticity and that my
Hmm.
my values are so laid out. And if you don't match in terms of values, we're not going to be a good fit, whether it's a partner or a friend or whatever.
Woo. Preach, sister.
And I think too, like because those are my two defined centers, I was
Hmm.
reading about it and it's like they almost like talk to each other. And it makes sense because
Yeah.
the channel there. And since they're
Hmm.
the only two and I'm there to like learn about the world through the rest of my like open centers, what that means to me is that like what I want then values my love, my direction, and my sense of self, and then vice versa. So
Right.
like I really just don't think that I could go wrong there if I'm listening to the things that I want.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I think that heart piece makes so much sense. And I think, oh man, I feel like my 20s and my authority of being emotional.
Mhm.
I think when I found that out, I was like, a lot of this makes sense because being emotional means our intuition is coming from our emotions and it's coming from our thing. But the how that you allow this to authority to guide you, you got to know what you're feeling and you
Yeah.
have to be willing to feel it
Mhm.
and not just like intellectualize it, but like in your body, in your soul, like do that.
Which again, the
So
conditioning process, right? Like you're a
yeah.
woman and you're a woman of color.
And
How much can you show your emotion without getting some labels?
and also with the fact that I was too sensitive growing up, I was feeling, you know what I mean, feeling too much. It was too big. It was too bold. It was you when you are showing that you have that, because man, the amount of times that just having passion for something has come off aggressive to
Mhm.
a person, and I'm like, I don't even know how you got there. I'm just
Cuz you're
excited.
it's the stereotype of the angry black woman.
Yeah, 100%. And that, and it's not just even just being the angry black person. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of other privileges that come to it, but
Sure.
I am naturally loud and I'm naturally excitable and I do take up a lot of space. And so like that 20, like I want to say like after college, mid 20s, I was learning like, oh, when we moved, right? I had to completely change how I bartended because the way I was used to, and the way I was used to being outward and connecting with things was like, that's too much.
We're also in the
You're
Midwest
mean. You're
who
rude.
like
Yeah. Oh,
wants to
oh my
sit in
God.
freaking line at the goddamn grocery store and talk about shit. And I'm like, get moving. This is not efficient. Like it's the
Exactly.
East Coast
Exactly.
personality too with the wet, like with the Midwest.
So
And
it
on
was a
top
whole
of
lot
all
of
of that
mix.
though,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be
It
rough.
was, and it was a lot of a mix, and it was a lot of okay, so I gotta tone this down, which means I kind of gotta rein in those feelings, and then it's kind of like maybe how do we, and also just not feeling. Feelings
Mhm.
hard, and feelings really hard in your 20s.
Yeah.
And taking those disappointments, and if you aren't actively working on it, then you shove everything down and you go do stuff because you
Because we have no
can, and
skills. We
we
have
have
no
no
skills.
skills.
Nobody taught us how to do this.
No one taught us. No, not at all. And those who can't teach. So,
Yeah, right. That's
because
right.
I can intellectualize that feeling, I didn't have to feel it. I knew what it was. I knew what I should be doing. I knew what I could do that would make myself feel better, but I couldn't do it because I didn't know how. I'm like, how do I just like wake up one day and be like, ooh, that hurt. Let it keep hurting and then it will go away. No, no. I've got ADHD. That impulsivity, no. That's gonna go away
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think the term that really stuck with me when I was going over the ask was go slow fast. So I am good at making knee jerk reactions or knee jerk decisions and that stuff because as an emotional thing, I have to really want that. That has to make me feel happy. That's how, if I know it makes me feel good initially and I'm excited and it's not, I need to follow it on that piece. But I also
Mhm.
need to take that 24 hours and be like, are you actually excited for the opportunity? Are you excited for the thought of the opportunity? And how does that actually feel within your body and your soul?
Yeah. How many times I'm like,
And
you want to do this tomorrow? And you're like, yeah. And then the time comes and you're like, bro,
I'm
I
like,
don't want to do
no,
that.
I don't want to
Like,
do that. I'm the worst. And I'm trying to get a lot better about it.
mhm.
So it's like it's so funny too, because it even goes like through things you can say. that are nice
Yeah, that
to
just
say
gives you
that
the
you need to
time.
wait 24 hours to figure out if you
Yeah.
actually want to do that.
Hmm.
And I think that's so funny because I really am. I'm like, people will tell me that. I'm like, sounds great. Absolutely. I go to bed, I wake up, I don't want to do that.
No, I'm not doing
That
that thing
actually sounds,
later.
I'm not doing that. I don't want to. And it's like,
Mm-mm.
why? And I think that also goes kind of a little bit hand in hand in the people pleasing percent will come up again, in personality profile. But at the
Mm.
end of the day, it still is, it's crazy. If I just go, hey, let me sleep on that before I answer it, it would probably cause me not to look so flaky as I did for about 10 years.
Mhm. Well, I mean, like, and emotions, right? Like, they come
Yeah.
as these
Hmm.
waves. Remember when
Right.
we went to get wave tattoos?
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I just have a mountain. I'm still down to do that. I'm
Okay,
always
we gonna
down.
do it. We gonna do it.
We gonna
But
do
that's
it.
what it makes me think of, though. Like, the emotional authority
Yeah.
is just like this wave. Like, let your
Hmm.
emotions come, get hit with the
Yep.
wave, and then just like, kind of like a dog that's like wet, just shake it all off and then see what sticks. What do I
Right.
really want to do, and how does this make me feel?
Right, exactly. And, so learning that has been, I don't want to say difficult or anything like that. I mean, it's kind of come just because I've been dealing with my own emotions and dealing with my feelings and stuff in a more productive manner anyway, that I feel like, okay, cool. No, I can get it. And I'm not saying those knee jerk yes. I'm not following everything that's thrown at me because it's there.
Hmm. Well,
And
it
I
came
think
at the
that's
right
been, yeah,
time for you. I think
right.
this
It really
information came at
did.
the right time for you.
100%. 100%. Because I don't know if I would have found this 5 years ago, I don't know if I could have. No.
Right. No. I mean, and neither could have I. Like 5 years
Yeah.
ago, like this would have just been something that I thought was cool and then chucked the
Yep.
book in the bottom of my
Yep.
bookshelf and never even saw it ever again.
Yep.
So it's like I really think that like the universe put this in our
Hmm.
paths because we needed to have it. And I think that
Right.
now that we've come to know our type, we know our strategy, we know how to listen to our authority to make these like more moderate to like major life decisions. I say the final piece of the puzzle for this episode anyway, nowhere near even like an eighth or a 16th of what would cover actual human
Right.
design. But for this puzzle piece today, we're going to go over the profile. So your profile in your chart really talks about two separate energies and how they work together to form the conscious and the unconscious traits in your personality. And they work together to let you explore the world. So
Hmm.
we have one of the same numbers. And so like I'm a 5-1 profile. So line 5 that we both share is the heretic line, and the 1 in my profile is the investigator. So usually that first number is the conscious part, the second number is the unconscious part. But I think that I've always like really truly deeply known these two. Like I don't think that one's ever been like operating outside of my awareness per se. um but the heretic profile really means that we're here to help people, which makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Like behave like behavioral case manager, like you're out there in the community, you're working with like populations that really freaking need you. I'm a
Yep.
therapist working with people that really freaking need me. Like we are here for our communities, and it makes sense because this is like the biggest part of our profile that we're showing to everybody. Like we can guide people, we can direct them to healing, we can connect them to resources, and
Hmm.
not even just like in jobs, but I think like friend wise and even like
Oh,
passion
yeah.
wise, like we want to be able to do that for our family and for our friends and
Hmm.
for our communities. So we share that same line 5 in our profile, and that's actually yours is 5 too, right?
I'm five
So
two. Yeah.
you're 5, like those are our external parts of ourselves that people would
Hmm.
probably like really come to know us by. And
Hmm.
then that one, the line 1, the investigator, this is, I need a lot of information in order to feel like really safe and secure in the world. And again, this doesn't take into context, culture, values, trauma,
Right.
all the other stuff.
Right.
And still this makes sense. Even if it was devoid of all those other things, this would still make
Hmm.
sense for me.
Yeah.
So the going deeper into all of the things that I really love to do. I mean, this podcast, research,
Hmm.
people, places, subjects, whatever it is, I'm gonna know it, and to the point where I think that like I could give a lecture on it. But it's also
Right.
probably the part of me that makes me look up the menu online or the parking situation before we go anywhere. So
Parking situation, I think, just like that's anxiety, baby girl. Because we all do that. Like, how many times have I told you I'm just going to Uber because I don't want to stress about parking? It could be 10 minutes down the road, and there could be no reason for me not to drive other than the fact that if I don't find parking, it's going to stress me out. Now, the menu thing, let's be very real. A lot of people look up the menu before to see. No, no, honey. You will examine that menu in a way that is so investigating,
So
I
I
guess.
mean,
Like, the way that you're like, no, 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 like, no, I don't think I like that salt that they have there, so we're not gonna.
now I've just given myself like, if I can't have 3 things that I would want, doesn't matter if it's like the a la carte items or the
Yes,
appetizers or
yes,
if I can just find 3 things that I can like, homegirl go. Like, I
yeah,
will go.
yeah, and honestly, that is like, thank you for speaking on that because that shows growth and change, babe. Because
Thank
if
you.
they didn't have mozzarella sticks, we weren't fucking going. We went to
You're damn
Applebee's
straight.
so much.
They were the only mozzarella sticks at the time that tasted anywhere close to Sheets. We're in the Midwest, babe. Like, how am I going to go anywhere at 2 a.m. and figure out what I want? Even if it was at like 12 p.m. noon, could not go to Sheets, therefore needed Applebee's. Now, if anybody out there really missing Sheets right now and you ain't on the East Coast, go to your nearest Sonic because that's about as close as you gonna get.
Oh, true. Truly. It really is. And it sucks.
Mhm.
And man, it would make a killing out here.
Yeah. I don't know why they just don't like expand.
Or why the gas stations out here don't take a page out of their book. You're not doing that much more.
No.
Like, you're already making weird sandwiches and pizzas and stuff and putting them in the thing. Why don't you just do a made to order?
Yeah, why don't you just get us Sheets and put it up there?
You know, when I make $1 billion, I'm investing and I'm starting a franchise just because I think everyone should have the opportunity to enjoy a breakfast sandwich and mozzarella sticks at 2 a.m. I think everyone deserves that.
Whenever your
and
heart
mac
desires,
and cheese bites.
You can find something at your local Sheets.
100%.
I do also think this came to me the other day because I was watching New Girl. Hear me out. So as an investigator, as like the subconscious parts of myself, except that I know them very fully and cherish them. But I feel like because I know so much about stuff, the conditioning process, and because I'm a woman, let's get real, is like, she's a know-it-all. She's this or she's that just because of it. I feel like fucking Jess in New Girl during the Pogo episode where she doesn't want to tell Nick how to put out the grease fire. And they're just like spraying water and they're like, oh no, why is it getting bigger? And she's like, because you have to smother it. And they're like, why didn't you tell me about this beforehand? She's like, I don't want to be a know-it-all. That I feel like is my life as this 5'1" profile. I want to help you, and I know so much, but you've conditioned me to doubt that I don't want to tell you it when I know I could help you.
Yes. That's fair. That's a fair statement, for sure.
What do you think about yours, though? Like, because the line is obviously strong, but where does the 2 come in?
So the 2, and I'm not sure, because I have a different name. I don't know if we've read different charts or whatever, but mine is the natural. 2 is the natural. And I don't know if you know the different wording, if you have different wording for that from the different profile you read or the book that you read. Because, was there a different word?
Yeah, no, there is a different word. And actually, I could tell you about it. I'll tell you about it later. I don't know the exact
I just didn't. But I just didn't want to throw off if people are looking at, if you're like linking resources, but then I say that, but then if there are 2, it doesn't say that. That's
I have the one that I read is Understanding Human Design by Karen Curry Parker, but we both have the My Human Design app with Jenny Zoe, and she gives like a different name for the personality type.
Yeah, and that's what I utilize the most, just because it's what I found, and I hate to say it, it was just the long report. It didn't go into. It went into a lot of detail, but it wasn't as specific to me. I didn't feel like I felt like I had a lot of stuff that I had to sort and dig through. Whereas the app, I just felt like having that information right in the palm of my hand and how it was like,
And she can read it to you. Like, you can listen to it like a podcast. So it was really easy.
Yeah. And I did it. I read it because I am that person. But the natural, anyway. So basically, the natural is somebody thinks I've always just kind of I just woke up one day with a bunch of knowledge and knowing how to do things, but I don't have any types of, let's call it, certificates or proof as to why I know these things or why I can do these things efficiently. When it just comes super natural to me, in a way that maybe not so much to others.
Yeah, some people
And
might really have to work at something, but you're just like
right.
naturally good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, my brain just like started to buffer. So I was like,
Loading.
loading. I didn't take my meds today, and that was a mistake, but here we are. Because I was like, oh, I'm just talking with Bree. It'll be able to flow naturally, but I'm
Yeah,
also
of
having a
course.
second conversation in my head with you that I'm talking about later. So,
Oh my gosh, I have to
um,
tell you an ADHD side piece later because it's really
that's what I'm
funny. So
saying.
tell me about these things.
Yeah. Anyway, so like I was saying, I am just naturally good at everything. Like no, I mean, in all honesty, it's one of those things like I learn things very quickly. I
Mhm.
pick up on things very quickly. And I think like where it becomes a weird balance is I don't, people are like, well, why do you know that? How do you know that? I don't know. I saw it one day on a post and it stuck in my brain. And now I know that. And now I know that's how you should do that.
It comes off as like aloof or like not credible or whatever, but like you
Right.
are.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's coming off like, oh, well, why can't you don't, but you don't have a degree in that. Or
Mhm.
I'll say something in the lines of work, okay, right? My scope, I do not have a master's technically. I don't have those pieces, but I'll be talking to our the program, or we'll be in a meeting and I'll be like, yeah, well, that due to this, and they're like, yeah, that's right, and it's like, but you're not the therapist. I'm like, yeah, but I know because
Yeah.
this, and I do have a bachelor's, but because I don't have a master's, it's just like that credentialing. Like and this might sound a little, and I don't want to take anything away from anybody when I say this at all either, but I'm saying I feel like if you were able to test out a certain parts of a master's degree, I could probably test out certain parts of a master's degree to go back for social work.
No, for sure.
And that comes along with obviously work experience and all those things, but I do think that like I am really good at teaching myself stuff. Like I
Mhm.
was had terrible professors for stats classes and I still passed because I came back in and I spent 2 hours a day teaching myself how to do stats because I didn't learn it in class. So, but with that being said, is I have a really hard time sometimes. I'll see a problem. It's very obvious. I don't understand how nobody else is seeing it.
Yeah.
That's like the big thing. Like I see the big picture, and the problem is I see the problem. I know the solution, but sometimes I don't know that it's not my job to fix the problem. It's not my
Mhm.
job to come up with the solution just because I have it. And having to press pause on that and not going into immediately problem solving mode and fixing it just because I can. I need to make sure I know that I can take a step back and be like, that is actually outside my scope.
Because you're so passionate. You have so
Yeah.
many multiple passions that really come up,
Hmm.
and especially in terms of work, which is I feel
Yeah.
like where this happens so
Oh
much for
yeah.
you.
Hmm.
So it's like you have so much passion, you can see it and you know things and you're naturally good at it, even though you don't
Yeah.
have these certain credentials or degrees or whatever. And you could
Hmm.
probably go in there and like fix it all up. And again, like you said, not my circus, not my monkey.
Not my circus, not my monkey. So that's the piece. And then making sure that I am making, with being the natural too, I guess kind of the con side of it is like just making sure I'm making the choices for me and I'm choosing to take those things on because I'm like, I see it. I see it. Am I fixing it because I want to fix it? Or am I fixing it because I know it's a problem? But is it mine to fix? And I think that's just a really big
Mhm.
piece of it. Um,
You can't really let any of these though like
mm-mm.
free fly. I think
No.
that all of
Yeah,
these concepts have boundaries around them and you have to figure
absolutely.
out what yours are. Like if I
Hmm.
responded to every invitation with a yes, it's not going to get me to success.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I have to check in with the authority. It's just like
Hmm.
kind of like the checks and balances and like even in like
Yes.
American government, right? Like
Hmm.
besides what some of you think, one person doesn't rule the whole goddamn thing. Like there are so many other intricacies for what happens in this world. So if you don't know that though, you
Yes.
only go off of like the one thing, but then you're missing
Right.
90 other parts that are going to help you to get you where you need to be. And I think that
Right.
human design kind of really puts all those checks and balances into place. Like you can't just guide people. without the invitation.
Yeah.
Like, you know, without the if you have the invitation, you still can't take it. You have to check in with your authority. And
Mm-hmm.
overall, profile wise, like how you present in the world and explore it, that has to be taken into consideration too. So I don't think that it's just this like, oh, I'm a projector. Oh, and everybody else is a projector.
Oh,
They act
yeah.
the same way. No.
No. And I think that's a really good point to make, because I do think they all, like you said, checks and balances, like one plays into the other. So you can't just do one thing and feel like you're right. You can't just do one thing and feel like you're on the right path. You know, you've got to kind of take it all and look at it as the whole. And I think that's a big picture. And there's just so much other information that comes within that we're not even touching on. And I don't know if you're going into a later episode, but for the people I have introduced it to in a way like, hey, I hear what you're saying, and it's sounding like you are frustrated and you don't really feel like you know where you're going, and you kind of feel stuck, whether that be at work, whether that be personally, whatever. And I've given that, I'm like, just go get the app. I was like, if you don't like it, cancel it after a month. But I think, and I know where you're at right now, and I know how and you've said like you want to get it figured out. And I've had like 2 people literally get out of very non-serving situations for themselves, and their life has like taken off. They made that one choice, they set a boundary, they said no because they followed their human design, and they took it into account when they went in and they made this decision, and now literally work life's done a 180 and they're thriving and things are
Yeah.
getting nothing but better and better. And I think that is the piece that makes it, I don't want to say makes it all worthwhile, but I feel like if you just feel kind of stuck and you feel kind of confused, I think if you go in and you honestly look at human design with an open mind and you can see it, I feel like anyone could take something out of it and utilize it to improve their quality of life. I
And
really do.
If they don't, they just don't want to see it for what it's
yes.
You
Absolutely.
know, because you're right. There is so many things that like we just scratched the surface. I mean, even just like going over the energy types in my last episode, like tinked on the window of the surface of human design. This just like cracked the glass just a little bit. But like you're saying, there's so many other elements. Like there's so many numbers in your chart, and all those numbers are like gifts, or sometimes people call them gates. And it's really just like these traits that you have. And it even breaks down like, what environment do you live in best? How do you digest food? And so one of the things that I want to get to today is definitely like the digestion piece. So like,
oh my gosh,
these are just like, if you have anything that like doesn't fit into like the authority strategy, whatever, that you want to like, this is important about my chart, please let it like free flow. Because I think that like you learning your digestion type was one of the most affirming parts of your chart.
It really was. Okay, so I have always struggled, and not with an eating disorder, that's not what I mean, but I have a really hard time eating consistently. And it has always been a thing where as a kid, it was like, no, this is when mealtime is served. You're going to sit and you're going to eat, and you're going to eat everything on your plate. And that's what it's going to be. But it's like, but I don't want that. Or I'm not hungry at this time, but I would be hungry at like 4 p.m. You know, but it's like, no, you can't eat now, you'll spoil your dinner, but like that's when I'm hungry, and then you push it. So I have an alternating digestive system, but within the description of mine specifically, it's like you will never consume food on a time manner at the times that like society says you should eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the moment that you allow yourself to eat when you're hungry, or stop eating when you're not hungry, that is the moment that, like, you are eating in the proper way.
Dude, God, I am not
and
kidding.
I was like,
she's been a server she had been a server for a really long time. So she's going to get off and get home at like 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes, whatever. When I tell you that this bitch was in at 4 a.m. making lobster, mac, and cheese, full course goddamn meals, when I got up in the middle of the night to pee, and we'd make fun of you for how long. You're like, bro, you're and knowing that now, like, to me, I was like, oh, girl's just eating because she hungry. Like, that's it. Like,
just eating because I'm hungry. And I think another part of it too, it's like it also gives you tips on like how to best eat, like in the locate, or the type of things you should be doing. Like I personally shouldn't be around a lot of electronics while I eat. And also like doing events around a deal. So say a birthday dinner. I'm never, and we're at a restaurant, and so we're simulating, and it's a lot. It has always been a thing where like, especially recently, because I've noticed it now. If
Hmm.
I know we're going to eat for somebody's birthday and there's going to be chatter and there's going to be talk and stimulation, I eat before I go because
Well,
I
and
know
it
I'm
makes
going
so
to
much
go order
sense.
my food. Yeah, it really does
Because
because it's
every
the
time
over.
that we've had something to do, you've
Hmm.
like we'll like make a bunch of food or whatever, and then you
Hmm.
won't fucking eat that shit. And it used
Hmm.
to piss me off because we'd all have like our times to eat, right? And then I'd be like,
Hmm.
well, why the hell did we just do all this shit if this bitch ain't gonna eat? Like, if you're hungry, then eat, but you weren't. And I like could not
Yeah,
get it, like, because I'm like, oh well, we had this like planned and whatever, but it totally makes sense now. And I like take
yeah.
back all of the times that I was like irritated or like made fun of you for eating whatever you wanted to, because that really is the way that you're designed to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, because it is overstimulating. It's like, I'll go out, I'll be really excited for food too. And I'll order it. But having sat in that energy for that long, I'm like 2 bites, not hungry anymore. Because I have so much other stuff going on and I need the energy to be in my stomach to
She will
digest my food.
literally, we would go out for food. This bitch would take 2 bites of her food. Like she said, she'd go home with it in a container. And when we get home, maybe 20 minutes later, she'd eat it. And I'm
Yep.
like, why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you do this while we were there? Because it feels so weird sometimes sitting at the table eating with somebody who's just like, and let's get real, you're a little foodie critic a little bit. So you're like, well, this mostly because bitch gets down in the kitchen. So,
Yeah.
like, if she's like, oh, I could have made this better at home
It's
myself, it
so
was
bad.
like,
It is. It really is. And I can solely see how that would be pretentious and annoying. Like, I will eventually eat it. It's just like, well, I was really hyped for it, but now I have all this other simulation going on. And like that first bite wasn't perfect. So I'm like, "Ugh."
mhm,
Like, I'll eat it
darn.
later. I'm just not
Yeah,
eating it
I'll
now.
eat this in 20 minutes when we get home. It's fine. Like my digestion type was like weird to me, but like
Yeah.
oddly satisfying, I guess too, because mine's like
Yeah.
hot. So it's a hot
Just
digestion
eat
type.
food.
I just need prepared food. But it makes sense. Like, okay, so if I would go
Yeah.
get like a breakfast burrito or something in the morning,
Yeah.
down that shit, yum.
Hmm.
But if I had a bowl of cereal, fuck that, I'll be hungry in 10 minutes. It
Right.
like just
Yeah.
doesn't like get into
Hmm.
my like I think like the warmth of the food does something to my energy. Maybe it just like makes me
Yeah.
like feel better in my body or something like
Yeah.
that.
Maybe that sense of comfort.
Yeah. And I think too though, and when you're talking about comfort as well, like if you're feeling confident, then you feel
Hmm.
love and then you feel like you can take
Hmm.
care of yourself. And that's all of like my defined centers, right? Are all about like love
Right.
and sense of direction and taking care of yourself, whatever. But the thing that I thought was really kind of funny was like, oh yeah, you need to eat in places where you're warm. I was like, bitch, no, I don't. Like, no. Like it is like a humid day and 82 in Pennsylvania. I ain't sitting on a patio. Get me in the air conditioner. Like I do not want to do that. But I kind of like wonder if it's why I do like sitting outside. Like in Colorado, I'm like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
please put me on the patio,
Right, right, right. No, that makes a
you
lot of
know?
sense.
So I don't
And
know if
I'm
it's just
like,
the humidity that I'm like, no, and I don't really want to do that. But the hot digestion makes sense. I
yeah,
like prepared foods more.
that's fair. And I'm like, oh, it's so weird because I like, yeah, mine had nothing to do with the type of food at all. Like, I
Yeah.
think it was alternating. So it's like, I should like, but I will say this though, because Maple's also a manifest generator and she had the same thing for her thing too. And it was the piece where it's like hunting and gathering, you have an alternating so you can eat meat and you can eat things that come from the ground, but you're going to like those things that eat more from the ground. So like, prime example, both can eat a burger, but there's a bison burger on the menu. I'm choosing bison.
Hell
Lamb,
yeah.
because they're grazers naturally. And
Mhm.
that meat, and most times, even now that we're going to a store and buying it, most of like bison, lamb, they're still grazing. They're not being fed the way like our beef and our chickens and stuff naturally are. So that's what I'm
Mhm.
choosing every time. That's my favorite thing. And like potatoes, because they're, like literally coming deep within the earth and those type of things. And root vegetables are like, my jam. I was like, that's crazy. That piece is a
Yeah.
little wild. Like, it's not about being hot or cold, but I think the type of food and when you're like looking at your patterns and it's like, oh, wow, weird.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, some people, like, have to eat on a schedule, some people
Right.
don't, like, when we were talking about, like, how I share some of this with my clients, some clients I know are gonna be like, "Bree, you're crazy." I don't talk to them
Right.
about human design, they're not ready for it, they're not going to believe in it anyway, but the
Hmm.
ones who are, I will share about it, and I was talking to a client, and we were going over her chart a little bit, and I was telling her, like, dude, I'm not like an expert chart reader, but I can
Mhm.
tell you a little bit about like some stuff. And
Mhm.
hers was a consecutive eating pattern, which meant that
Mhm.
she needed to like eat ingredient by ingredient. And after I got done explaining it to her, I didn't hear her on the other end of the phone. And I was
Right.
like, did I lose her? Internet connection suck,
Mhm.
whatever. She was crying. And I
Wow.
was like, dude, what's up? And she's like, Bree, I used to take like a burrito that my family prepared for like dinner, and I would like open the tortilla, like fold by fold, and I would eat the meat first, the beans second, the rice next, whatever. And then I would just roll up the tortilla and smash it in some green chili. And she's like, I'd eat it, and it was good for me. But every time that I had any type of dinner, I don't know if it was, I mean, I'm sure it applied to other meals as well,
Mhm.
but she was like, every time we'd be at the dinner table, I'd get made fun of. She was like, and it was
Mhm.
and it hurt because it was just like this thing that I could expect my family to say something about, and I wanted to be
Mhm.
conditioned to do something
Right.
differently. But it was the one part that I fought against so much because it felt so good to me. So she's like, now that you're telling me that this is how my human design says that I need to eat like ingredient in by ingredient consecutively, she's like, that's how I know this is real.
Yeah. It was the appetite thing for me. It was just like,
Mhm.
whoa. I mean, it all felt very natural and it all felt correct, but
Yeah.
that piece was the one without like just set me. And I was like, no, that makes so much more sense because and to this day, like I had a until things changed at work, I had a 2 hour lunch break because and when they said, why do you think this will help you and be more productive? I was like, because then within that 2 hours, I can figure out what I want to eat and I can figure out if it's ready for me to eat. And I don't, the moment you put a time limit on when I can't eat is the moment I don't want to eat.
Yeah, and it's not good for you to
Yeah.
like, I
Mm-mm.
think, force yourself to shut yourself down just because you
Yeah.
don't have the flexibility or the time or the options
Right.
or whatever.
Hmm.
And that's like what I mean by like this world does not help us to express our own individual energy types. And that's why we're
Absolutely.
not living aligned lives. We're all living, I think,
Yeah.
some degree of misalignment. And if you do have the opportunity to live a little bit more aligned, you probably have time, money, and resources.
Absolutely. Because otherwise, I mean, let's get real. Wendy's was going to fucking price hike their meals at peak times. So you mean breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah,
So it all
it's
kind of comes
chaos.
into it. The system, yeah, it's
And it's like we're just I feel like sometimes we're fighting like an uphill battle, and I'm sure that
absolutely.
there's an entire episode that we could do about all of that. But I think that
Oh
like the
yeah.
small decisions that we can make every day that fall in line with our design type and along with like our values and our culture and all that other stuff,
Hmm.
like don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a framework, and
Yes.
if you believe in that framework, your life will fit into that framework the best way that you can. Like
Yeah.
projectors are supposed to have so much rest. I work
Hmm.
11 and a half hour days, Tuesday,
Right.
Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Like, I do not have time to rest on those, but I do need time to like alone to recharge. And you know me,
Same.
what is
Yeah.
ever have I been like okay with being by myself? Almost never.
Almost never.
And I love it now. I like need it. Like I
Yeah.
crave it. I'm so
Mhm.
excited about it. So it's like Mondays when I'm sitting here with 6 hours and it's just 6 hours, but like with 6 hours on a Monday, I feel like the most like myself because I can sit here and I can recharge and I have all these different things to do. If I want to do laundry, I can do laundry. If I want to write a podcast episode, I can do that. If I want to reach out to do
Right.
networking, I could do that. If I want to walk down at the pond, I can do that. It's just like, wow, I have so much time to recharge. However, like projectors like aren't here to work. Like you're here to work. Anybody that
Hmm.
has like a generator because you have like a sacral like motor center defined, you're here
Hmm.
to be a workforce. Like
Yeah.
not that you're just a cog in a machine, you're an important cog in the machine.
Darn right.
So when you can do that and you have that
Oh
energy
yeah.
and you give that energy out to other people, you quite literally make the fucking world go round. But for
Yeah.
me, like I'm not designed to work a 9 to 5 job. I'm not designed to work
Hmm.
11 and a half hours every day. I'm
Hmm.
designed to work in like these short bursts of very efficient energy.
Hmm.
Because even in my 11 and a half hours, like I could see 10 clients, but am
Hmm.
I present for all of them? I try.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's like
But
I
yeah, you
try
can
the best
try as
I
hard as you can,
can.
but you got to do where you're spent, and
Yeah.
I feel like that goes to even with Dutch being the heretic or whatever too, because like because we want to help everybody, and we're giving so much of our energy into that, like having that time to like fully, like you said, recharge. I think, and I feel that same way too. And the craziest part is I used to feel, and I think this comes with the emotional and the other piece too, is I used to feel guilty for wanting to be alone.
Hmm.
And because, and I'm not saying that you made me feel guilty or anything like that,
Right.
but it's like, well, you're social, you're so outgoing, you're so loud
Hmm.
and proud, and you're saying you don't want to leave your
Well,
room
yeah, I
for
mean,
two
like, I was gonna
days.
say, you'd go into your room and shut the door, and I wouldn't see you, and I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, you're my
Yeah,
roommate, you're
no,
my best
exactly.
friend. Like, come and hang out in my room. I don't care if we're just like laying around, like watching whatever. Like, just come in my room." But
And I
like,
was like,
you wouldn't.
yeah, I was like, because I need to just like be in my hobbit hole, just like by myself without anything else, and just like do it. Because without that, it's really hard to recharge. Like, and not to put myself on blast about a bad habit, but I'm 95% sure one of the main reasons why I haven't quit smoking is because I still have smoking tied to my alone time, my
Mm.
acceptable alone time, where I can go smoke and sit and be by myself, um, and take that time for me without
And that
feeling an
actually makes
odd
sense.
sense of guilt.
Mhm. And that makes sense because, like, I almost felt guilty for, like, interrupting your morning.
Yeah.
Unless we, like,
Yeah.
were like, "Oh, hey, you wanna go out together?" And we're all, like, going out with our coffees and our
Yeah.
cigarettes or,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
whatever. But, like,
Yeah.
'cause it was very much like, I'm going out for a cigarette type deal or, like, I
Yeah.
need a cigarette. And you have that, like, pocket of alone time, so it makes sense why
Yeah.
you're like, I can finally, like, be by myself for, like, 5 minutes."
Yeah. And it sucks because I'm 95% sure Clark's a projector too. I'm like, I don't remember what his thing is. So he also is like he doesn't need constant reassurance or attention. My romantic partner, by the way, guys, that's what I'm talking about. But he doesn't need like constant reassurance or anything, but he wants to be around me.
Yeah.
So, and I want to be around him. And I don't think, but it did take some time. Like he would get like, there are nights where I'm like, hey, I'm going to sleep in the guest room just because I need to sleep and I need to like just be by myself for the next like hour or so before I fall asleep. And in the beginning, it was kind of he also felt a little upset by that. But then he realized, and I explained to him, I said, no, it's not that I don't want to be with you. It's just I do need time to be by myself. And the fact that I am so constantly with other people in my
Mhm.
everyday job, even if I'm at my second job, I'm with people. Like I never like my time
Yeah.
alone is driving in my car and you can't really be present with yourself when you're driving in your car,
And even
you
then, I'm
know?
calling you
So
at 7 o'clock in the morning because
yes.
it's 9 o'clock in the morning my time, and I'm like, "Yo, bitch, what's up? You want chat? You're on your way to
uh,
work, or like you just got out of the gym, or whatever. It's
yeah.
like 6 your time. I don't care. I'm up. How are you?" Like, but I
So
also
I do
think too, like, tell
yeah.
Clark data is coming out that say that partners that live together sleep
Yes.
better when they're in separate bedrooms. And I swear to God, if any man out there is lucky enough to date me in the future, you're gonna have your own bedroom, like
Well, I
because
just
I want my own space.
yeah, and to be honest, I don't think it hindered. He knows this. We've been over that. Trust me.
Yeah.
The first time he said he felt a little offended. That article got sent. But he just realized too. He's like, oh no, you just need time.
Yeah.
Because while he has people at work, he's also doing things on his own that he's not so constantly bombarded with having to interact with other people. It's just him in his car, him in the car he's working on. You know what I mean? Well, no matter what I'm doing at work, I'm with somebody.
Right.
So yeah, no, and I think that is having to take that time. But yeah, I think it's funny that you're now taking your alone time and you're enjoying it because wow, you did not.
Dude, I was afraid of it. I was afraid of alone time
Yeah,
because that meant I
yeah,
had to sit with myself and I didn't really like me
yeah,
because no one else
yeah.
liked me. Do you know what I mean? Not to the way that
Hmm.
I felt like I needed them to like me or to validate me
Hmm.
or to know me.
Hmm.
There, I mean, still in this day and age, like at 33, I could probably count on, I don't know, maybe two hands now, one hand
Hmm.
previously, but two hands, the amount of people that really know me, to like the depth
Yeah.
of me, recognize
Hmm.
all of those like much like really valuable traits and like strengths that I
Yeah,
have and
absolutely.
wisdom that I have.
Hmm.
I don't have a lot of people like that in my life, but it's enough now. It wasn't
Yeah.
enough then. So, and
Right.
now I can really like, I think human design really also set me up to understand that I'm always going to be a little misunderstood. And that's okay.
And yeah, that is good. I mean, it's a good way to accept it. And it's like kind of one of those things because, like, God, the same, same. And it's like, and I think that's a little mixed with like a little bit of the autism, the other part too, without like just not understanding those pieces
Well,
and
it's like,
moving. But
some
that's
trauma thrown in here
down
and
in
there,
there. Yeah, little
like
other places.
it also
But I,
like exemplifies all the things that we already know to be true from the human
yes,
design aspect of stuff.
also, yeah, so true. And then I do think like, and I don't want to say this and think I'm throwing shade, but I do feel like there was a little bit of personality shifting
Yeah.
for a period of time. you know, and the fact that you can sit there and say, hey, these are the people that know my core, and that's enough. I think that's great. I think that's huge.
Well, it's like, I think as a projector too, like, you
Hmm.
want to fit in, like, you want to feel
Yeah.
valued, and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, value on X activity or
Hmm.
this social dynamic or this group.
Hmm.
And it's like, and as projectors, we're constantly fulfilling projections of other people.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's like I had a fucking boyfriend and went to Broncos and Steelers AFC playoff game when they finally went, and I went in Broncos garb. I would never do that now. Like, it would literally destroy me as a
The
human to put
way
on
that
blue and
I
orange.
was did not understand that.
I look back at this now and I'm like,
And
you
I'm
were
like,
so wounded, child. You were a wounded, wounded woman.
I'm like, and I think I remember saying something to you, and then out of nowhere, you're like, no, I've always been a Broncos fan.
So convicted, I'm sure, in it too, when
Oh,
I was saying it.
yeah. You're like, I'm obviously a Steelers fan, but like, I've also, like, my family has always loved the Broncos, or my
It's like,
brother has always loved the
yeah,
Broncos. And
yeah,
like,
Steelers in my roots, but
yeah,
like Broncos have always been, no, fuck the Broncos.
no.
I don't
Yeah.
care. I love Colorado. Live there forever. Great, whatever. You gave me my child, but no, it is black and gold all day,
Um,
baby. So
yeah. And I was just
I
like,
would
oh,
never
okay.
compromise that now.
Never heard anything about the Broncos until that situation. I'm like,
The way that I'm like, I mean, I definitely some therapy, like lots of stuff
yeah,
has
yeah,
brought
yeah,
me
yeah.
there. But I think that like because I've like
Hmm.
this part in my healing journey, that's why I have
Absolutely.
found all the things that I have found in the last like 6 months to a year because it's really
Yeah,
helped me in the spots that I needed to. And so I
absolutely.
think that like we've always talked about how fun it would be to be like on a podcast of our own for like a while, right? And I think
Yeah.
that this is why it just really confirms it for me
Hmm.
because I'm so super happy that you joined me today. Like,
Yeah.
I love you to freaking pieces. And if you had like one final thing to say to people that are out there that are like, maybe I should look into human design, what do you think that is the message that you would tell them?
I would tell them, and make it completely about myself because that's who I am. No, but I would say I was feeling when you brought human design to me, I was feeling really torn about my future in my profession, my about both my jobs, because I want to do so much more within community, civically. I want to be engaged, and I want to figure out how to make this world a better place and make the people who need to be seen and heard and need resources the ability to give them resources. And through human design, it allowed me to take a breath and moment and figure out how I can take those steps to be more engaged and to be that, and me to know that like that is going to happen. That is in my future. I know if I follow this framework and how I feel about it, it's like I'm not just, I don't have some crazy idea that is unattainable, that is out in left field. It's like, no, this is what you are meant to do. You are the self-motivated hero. You are meant to walk this path where you take the time and you do help these people and you solve these problems. And I feel so much happier in my sense of life and self, because I've never been a person who just wants A, B, C, D, and E because I'm supposed to. I've been, I told you, I was like, I'm having my 6 month existential crisis because I don't know what I'm doing to help better the world. But now I feel like because I have followed this framework in such a way, and I feel very now confident that I am walking the path I need to be walking, and that if I keep doing what my passion is, going back to being a manifesting generator and following that emotional authority. If I'm passionate and it makes me feel good and that's what I want to be doing, I'm doing it right. And just because society says that this isn't it, or you should be better, or you should have a master's, or you should be just furthering your education to go make this money, I don't care about that money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me feel good. And I feel so much lighter because of it.
Absolutely.
And I'm making more money too. Craziest part.
I was gonna say too, like, you don't ever know what lies ahead
Mm-mm.
for you when you
No.
start following the actual design.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to
Yeah,
believe that it's better than it is now.
absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
both of us have. And I feel
Yeah.
really and even inspired by like what you were saying because it really resonates on like a human level. Like if you are out
Mm-hmm.
there thinking, what is next for me? Find
Right.
human design, believe in it, do it, and heal from whatever you need to. Be on
Yeah.
that journey for however long that you need to.
Mhm.
But the universe will place you in the path that you're supposed to be. And it led us
Yeah.
here to this podcast today. So
Sure
I appreciate
did.
you for coming on and
Yes.
being with me. And next week, guys, I'm going to welcome the guys of Paranormal Theory. They are a New Jersey based YouTube paranormal
Ayo.
investigative team. And I'm really excited because there's a special announcement that's coming with them. So you don't really want to miss that. It's going to be a really great thing that I'm excited to announce. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get reminded of any future episodes. But until next time, y'all, cheers.
See, the mind's
Bye.
empty. Bye.